that to get out all the bony bits.
This stuff is really...
No, it's different this time.
Hey studs, so today we're going to do a little talking about prison food and conditions. I started looking into what I knew about prison food. I started looking into mechanically separated chicken. If you don't know what mechanically separated meat is, let me show you. It's often referred to as meat paste or pink slime. It's the stuff you see used in hot dogs, that stuff that everybody's afraid of, and they're like, I don't want that. And this meat is like the meat after you take all of the good meat away. After you've removed like your breasts and your thighs and your wing and anything else that you would use and sell, and then you take all of the beaks and the feathers and the bones and everything else, and they run it through a giant grinder and then push it through a sieve. They use that to get out all the bony bits. And none of those parts get through to the other part where they make it into meat paste. And then that delightful dish is what we feed to our prisoners every day. Oh, I've seen you pansy YouTubers out there making prison food meals. No, you're eating slams. Those are actually jail treats, which completely differs from your average prison meal, or even a prison snack. Unless you want to skip the microwave line, then you totally jail that. You don't know what I'm talking about? My prison people do. Shout out to all 6.1 million of you American felons out there. If you want a real prison meal like tacos, you gotta grab a 10-pound box of pink slime, then throw that in a buffet broiler. Add 5 bouillon cubes and 2 taco packets for seasoning. No salt. For salt measurements, go to McDonald's, grab one of their individual packets of salt, and use that for your entire meal that I'm about to describe. Take 1 Costco-sized can of pinto beans and stick them in a broiler. Take 2 pieces of lettuce leaf, tomato paste, and water, also known as salsa, and 2 tortilla shells. Don't forget to grab your orange for dessert, or your gelatin-like drink. And by gelatin, I mean you take Jell-O and put it in water before you add any sugar, and then just drink that. That's the Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid. And this is gonna probably be your best meal for the month. So I came across a forum while I was doing my research. One of the comments on it got me a little bit heated, you could say. In the forum, the guy was attempting to debunk what I have seen with my very own eyes about institutional meat. Food boxes that are served at the Indiana Department of Corrections, it was stamped for institutional use only and not for consumption by minors. I didn't work in the kitchen on a daily basis. The only reason I was ever in the back of a kitchen was because I was a stud. That's a term for a lesbian. And our job was to look as manly as possible. Not much of a stretch here. And then women would just give you things. Extra pieces of coffee cake from breakfast or a boiled egg. Because those things were literally treats. I didn't see this package on a regular basis. Someone at one point just pointed it out to me like it was a joke. Like, look at this. And Indiana Women's Prison in Indianapolis, they house minors that are serving their time as adults. They were pointing out to me that when they cooked the meals, if they made these types of food product for the minors, they had to make a separate meal or a separate meat product for the minors because they couldn't consume what the adults were eating. When I asked a friend of mine who did work in the kitchen on a regular basis in one of the facilities in Indiana, they said that the Rockville meat just said ground meat. No label of what type of meat, just simply that it was marked ground meat. So just a lot more of this. Are you having nightmares yet? The forum I read made the claim that labels such as the one I'm suggesting couldn't exist because no one has ever produced a picture of it. Let me tell you about all the women in prison who have access to a cell phone or some form of a camera. Yep, I can hear that girl getting beat down right now because all of her dorm mates are sick of having to show their buttholes every time that they go somewhere because women can't ever stick together and somebody's snitching. So they know what dorm it's on and they're regularly checking you, and women are weak, they don't stick together. Does that make me a misogynist? But my point here is, not a lot of women in prison or people in prison who are going to risk their camera or cell phone or anything in order to take pictures of this type of meat. This leads us to the distributor. In Indiana, we have a contract with Aramark. Aramark is a catering company who doesn't just supply Department of Corrections, but also more upstanding catering. And Aramark has a reputation on its own of having a lot of bad remarks left on it. Most of those remarks, though, seem to be due to the fact that employees were trafficking in tobacco or drugs to the inmates. So these people who are making $10 to $11 an hour out there doing the footwork in order to line their pockets. What makes that more respectable than the state officials who are benefiting from outsourcing the food service to begin with and line their own pockets? Or maybe some of the Aramark workers who are busted for trafficking were humanitarians. I guess you could call them vigilantes because technically they are committing a crime by trafficking. Sometimes it's about intention, and some of the Aramark workers claim that they didn't take any kind of pay. They were just trying to help, which means some vigilante douchebag missed out on his cut of a multi-million-dollar contraband industry from inside prison. Just like the government. Sure, some of the Aramark employees were just that pervy guy that wanted you to show them your boobs, or pull out their penis and show it to you, and then give you stuff for it. Like what's happening with most of the people that they're covering in Hollywood right now. Now maybe you're asking yourself, why do I care what a bunch of hardened criminals eat? They're rapists and murderers and the worst of the worst. What does it matter what they put inside their body? Let me introduce you to my friend Emily. Sorry, Emily, I couldn't find a better picture of you. Emily's currently doing a 25-year sentence for selling 2 prescription pills. No previous crimes. 2 pills at the age of 27. And she'll be eating pink slime till she's 54. Her out date right now is 2036. Put that in your calendar. But in the little town that I come from, they've been doing drug busts forever. The first one that I remember was back in 2010, and it was called Operation Huntington Cocktail Party. 31 people were arrested in that operation on 78 different charges ranging from Class A misdemeanors to, at the time, Class A felonies. Class A felonies included things like those 2 pills that my friend Emily, we mentioned before, happened to sell. So her offense was a Class A felony. 2 Class A felonies. 25 years. 25 per pill. In that Operation Huntington Cocktail Party that was back in 2010, a lot of the criminals that were involved were marijuana salesmen. Now, after they enacted the new protocol in July of 2014, it lowered some drug convictions to a lower time frame. It would put them in to a level 6 felony, which would mean the prisons were no longer responsible for housing those people, but the jails were. Then in my little small town, in 2015, they enacted Operation Breakfast Club, arresting another 31 people for drug-related offenses. Then 2016, in Operation SummerSlam. My town thinks it's funny, don't they? All 26 people that were arrested had charges related to dealing in narcotics, methamphetamine, cocaine, or a controlled substance. So all of these years, and they've expended all of these resources to track down people that are doing absolutely no harm to other people. Most of those people in the 2016 arrests were Class 4 or above in felony, so that they were required to be sent to a DOC facility instead of being housed in the jails. When you do drug busts for years prior, trying to get all the marijuana and pacifist drugs out of the way, of course people are going to turn to methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, harder drugs, and things that are less easy to smell, track, or detect. What did you think was going to happen? So then we house these people for years, cost taxpayers millions of dollars. That all leads to outsourcing to places like Aramark, and 0 people are paying attention to standards because everything is being overlooked due to the fact that they're all worried about where the funding is going to come from. Because that funding goes to pay the costs for the employees who are underpaid, which turn around and makes a drug trade to supplement their income that you're not giving them enough of. So I'm always asked, then what's the solution? One idea that was brought across the board here recently as a current Indiana solution was for everybody to be given a modified tablet. On that modified tablet, they would have access inside the jails and prisons to buy entertainment or have their self-help stuff readily available, do their classes potentially, but also to spend money In Indiana, they think that the solution is going to be that the inmates turn around and start paying for things by paying for things that they're going to get digitally, and then the state getting part of the cut from whatever that they sell, like they do with commissary. The problem with that is prisoners at best make $1.30 a day, unless they're in some specialized job. And maybe 5 days a week do they get that $1.30 a day. But at best, they average about $20 to $25 a month in income as a prisoner. People in jails aren't making any money whatsoever. So really, you're not asking for the inmates to pay for their jail stay, but for their families to. There is also a recent sheriff in Bartholomew County in Indiana who recognizes that 90% of his jail is incarcerated for a mental illness or drug-related offense. He's trying to combat the mental health issues and drug offenses with rehabilitation and counseling. But he can't really get the funding to do that because he's having too much trouble housing all of these people, of which he's overcrowded because they pushed them out of prison, and now it's up to the jails to make up for the rest. But that lack of funding is due to these people still being incarcerated instead of being helped. So my solution that we all need to work on is really to change the laws and how they're kept, and how we see people that have drug problems or addictions, and how we view things as a country and view other people as humans. It's not the solution, but it's a solution. Well guys, that's all for today. I hope you liked this video. It was a fun one for me. I got to do some more videos later on this week, so I hope you guys stay tuned. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a like. If you're new here, give it a subscribe. Thanks for hanging out, guys. And as always, stay studly.